Hello, fellow fleet and mobility players. As you know, the Americas is a very large area. It's composed of North, Central, and South America, as well as the Caribbean. And so we're talking about more than 30 countries. And when dealing with fleet management, do we focus on customizing operations and developing a local strategy, or do we create a regional strategy that is kind of standardized? I think that maybe we should probably do a mixture of both. And to help us with this topic today, my special guest is Alberto Mancillas, and he is a fleet manager for electrification and automation tech company ABB in North America and Brazil. So, meaning that he is responsible for the full life cycle of the company's fleet vehicles in Canada, the US, Mexico, and Brazil, but also Puerto Rico. This includes vehicle selection, ordering, registration, maintenance, damage repairs, reassignment, and disposal of vehicles, auctions, and other aspects of fleet management. So, a lot of stuff to do there. Alberto is in charge of 7 team members who support more than 2,500 users, or to say drivers. And his fleet is made up of 2,000 or so vehicles. Hello, Alberto. How's it going?
Hi, Daniel. Nice to see you again. Doing well, thank you.
Good, good, good to see you again. Yeah. Um, so let's get down to the question. The first one is just, it's basic about your fleet. Could you start by telling us about your fleet and your drivers, So maybe like the types of vehicles you have. Are they direct purchase or lease? Are they benefit vehicles or maybe work or tool vehicles?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, our fleet it's depending on each country, right? Each country has its own differences, and let me start with Canada, Mexico, and Brazil. They're similar. We do have some benefits vehicles, but most of them are going to be work related or utilitarian vehicles. In the US, we have only work related vehicles, and most of the vehicles that we have on each country it's for sales and services. um, the other aspect that we have, a specific aspect that we have, a characteristic that we have in the US, is that our most common vehicle is the F-150, the work truck. So we do have a lot of people
Yeah.
doing services for other companies, while in other countries, we do have some smaller vehicles for sales. So most of the vehicles that we have in Brazil are smaller vehicles. As you know, the Brazilian market is really complicated for large vehicles, and the pricing it's not making it, um, uh, uh, it's not helping. So most of the vehicles that we have in Brazil are small sedans, mid-sized sedans. In Mexico, we have a mix of mid-sized sedans and some work trucks, but not as um, large trucks like we have in the U.S. But the characteristic in U.S. it's the most common vehicle is the work truck like the F-150 that we usually have. Canada has a mix. We have several work trucks, but also some benefits. And one key that one takeaway that I can mention that we have also in the United States, and it's managed by my team, it's the reimbursement program, which is not common for Mexico and Brazil. We do have it also in Canada, but in the US, we have over 600 users that have a reimbursement program set up, which means that they use their own personal vehicle, but we, the company, reimburse them on the business miles that they commute with a personal vehicle. So that's an overall view of the fleet that we have.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, so US bigger, Brazil smaller, Mexico maybe in between. Yes, I heard from other fleet managers, reimbursement's a bit more common in the States. The next question was to just give us a difference of the three largest markets, but you kind of explained it. So we're talking about US is the largest market, of course, in the Americas, and then second would be Brazil, and third, Mexico. Um, is there anything else that we
Yep.
could highlight that's different in the markets? What do you think?
I'm
Maybe
gonna
not
start.
about the cars themselves, or I don't know. Yeah, whatever you have
Yeah,
there.
yeah. I'm gonna start with the contract type. So
Okay.
we in ABB we have a open-end contract, which is a common term that we use in the fleet industry for a financial lease, right? So in Canada, U.S., and Mexico and Puerto Rico, we have an open-end contract, which
Yeah, yeah,
means
yeah.
the risk of the vehicle it's remains on the uh, uh, lessee. So we, the company, are the ones that are responsible for everything that happens to the vehicle. So that's one of the key characteristics that you're going to find between the different countries with Central South America and the North America. Even in Mexico, some companies do use the close-end contract, but we in ABB use in the north part the open-end contract. So at the end of the day, once we buy the vehicle, we are the ones that are leveraging the risk of that vehicle. So we are the ones that are going to be disposing the vehicle. If there's a damage, we're going to have the hit of the financial cost. Also, if we sell it on like in the past years, we sell it in the fair market value. Um, Pricing, it's going to be a benefit for some high prices that we saw recently. So that's one of the major characteristics that you're going to be finding in between the different locations. In Brazil, we have what it's called MTR, the mid-term rental. It's some kind of close-end contract. It has all the full characteristics of necessity. So you can have the telematics, you can have the insurance, you have everything that is required for that vehicle to be used. So you just receive it and you start using it, and everything else it's under the lesser risk. So at the end of the day, we just return the vehicle, and the company, in this case, we have two companies in Brazil. We work with two companies, Arbal and Localiza. They are the ones that are taking the risk with that vehicle, and they're the ones that are disposing that vehicle. So I would start, Daniel, with these main characteristics of an open end and a closed end contract. The second thing that I would say is that regulation it's way different on each country. Especially we're used to a very good service and location logistics in the north part of Americas.
Americas, yeah.
US obviously has a lot of services. You can find a repair shop, you can find a tire shop really nearby. In Mexico and Canada, obviously because of the population, dense areas are the ones that have those services, including Brazil, right? A lot of population, it's in Sao Paulo and Rio and some other areas, dense population. But Brazil is really huge, and at some point we have some limitations on having services for the vehicles on extended areas, like in some parts of Mexico or even Canada. But U.S. has a lot of services, a lot of logistics, even for transporting vehicles. It's easier to do that in the United States than the rest of the countries. And I would say that another thing, as you mentioned, another difference between the U.S. and the rest of the countries, it's U.S. has a focus on just work-related vehicles, and
Yeah.
another difference is the taxation in U.S. and Canada. So If you receive a company vehicle in Canada and US, that's a benefit for you that it's subject to taxation, which is not something that we will find on the Latin American market. It's not something that we will find so easy. It's just or either a benefit or it's just a tool, but you don't have la taxation related to that specific vehicle. And in the US, you need to be really aware of what kind of vehicle you're going to be receiving. So basically, in the US, the IRS is the one that is setting up the capital cost, and what we use is the annual lease value to get the taxation from the IRS on what it's going to be applying to each driver depending on the personal mileage. So those are, I would say that those are the main characteristics that you need to understand on the different markets, because those are the ones that are really, really different.
That's good. You're giving us an idea of these different markets, and we need to pay attention. If you're a fleet manager deals with different countries, you need to know these differences. You already talked about, so in North America, it's more like the open end lease, and then in Brazil will be the closed end lease. So I'm assuming it's kind of standardized in that way. Maybe there are some exceptions, maybe not. But in terms of standardization, is there something that you can standardize across the entire region, or maybe there are some things that you cannot standardize? Like what you just explained with the leasing, so the open and close, it's different.
Yeah.
What can you standardize across the region?
Absolutely. I mean, there are certain things that you can standardize. Not potentially not everything, because each country, as we mentioned, is different. So, what would be the processes that I would say can be standardized? So, requesting a new vehicle, it's something that we standardize in ABB. So if there's a necessity, somebody like in this case, we usually have the manager of that employee requesting the vehicle is the one that it's approving. So we do have that standard process of ordering vehicles. So at the end of the day, somebody has a necessity, we're going to be supplying it, but we have the authorization process and the ordering process is standard for the
Wow.
entire region. The second, I would say, regular processes like requesting a fuel car. So requesting a fuel car in each country, it's going to be the same. Somebody may have an app, somebody may just email, but it's a similar process
Particular
standard.
procedures that are okay.
Exactly. And I would say that we do have some reporting, financial reporting. So we do have a Power BI for a TCO across all the countries. So at the end of the day, each manager wants to see what they're spending and what is the cost of the vehicle that they have. So we do have that standard process, a standard Power BI database across the different countries. And obviously, there are some other processes related to open end, like tires replacement. Like you can set up what is the tire depth that you would approve for a new tire. Maintenance, obviously in close end, it's different because everything is included, right? And at some point, what we have, the midterm rental, may be only 12 months for rental, and it's not going to require a tire change. But again, depending on the contract, depending on the country, you do have the ability to standardize processes. And I would say that the most optical way to do that is to have a fleet policy. Again, not every policy will apply um, to all the countries. You might need a specific policy for each country, but you do have certain characteristics of the fleet policy that can be standardized, like violations. I mean, you can't drive and talk to the phone, or some other cases where the eligibility is the same. So, depending on each country, you may apply a policy, but also you can have the specific standard processes or standard regulations for each country, and specifically standardizing some others that can be mutual to all the countries, right? And I would say that something that can't be standardized, again, the government regulation on each country, it's way different. Taxation is way different. Title on management is different. And even accident management is different for each country. So there are specific characteristics to each country that cannot be applied to other countries. In my case, we do have upfitting in United States and Canada. What I mean with upfitting is that we add a topper to the work truck, but we don't use that in the rest of the country. So there are going to be some specific characteristics that each country will need that cannot be replicated across other countries. So I would say those are the um, key takeaways that I would say can be standardized and cannot.
Yeah, so of course, yeah, if it's affected or it's like connected with local laws or regulations, of course you can't
Yes.
standardize it. All the
Yeah.
countries are different. You talked a little bit about acquisition, like the procedure for acquisition. So the procurement of vehicles. I was just curious, like in the last few years, um, how has procurement changed? Is it evolving or how is it changing?
It is it is wild on the last from the previous years.
Oh yeah,
Pre-pandemic, everything was different. We didn't have that EV transition
yeah. It
that
seemed
we
like
have.
the pandemic kind of changed things. Yeah.
Yeah, so everything changed from the pandemic. Inventory levels were really low. Discounts were off. I would say that there was a huge earthquake after the pandemic with the procurement and the strategy that you will need to follow. So back then, one of the changes that we did is we increased this life cycle that we had. So we have several years. We had planned several years and so many kilometers or miles. So we had to extend it to keep the vehicle within the fleet in order to have more availability in the future. Right. So those are the kind of changes that have been involved. So you have to adapt to what you have. At some point, the suggestion was just keep whatever you can. If it's functional, keep it, because right now you don't have an inventory available to replace it with. That was one of the strategies that we follow. And another thing that has been evolving is, well, Tesla came with this price fluctuation, and it's changing everything, right? It's the one that is
Yeah.
changing the pricing strategy. So usually what we used to see is that the vehicles were just increasing and on a monthly annual base, and then Tesla came with a price fluctuation that says, well, next month it's going to be less.
Should,
um,
should you
less
buy it today or
yeah.
let's wait it in a few months? I don't know because yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So another thing that I would say, it's Chinese brands are um, invading every Latin America country, not yet to the United States or Canada, but what you will see in Mexico is that we have several Chinese competitors already with really good price options. Not to mention the EV transition, and that it's the competitor, the BYD competitor for Tesla, that it's breaking every mall. BYD announcing a
Yeah,
factory in
I
Brazil.
know and you know, maybe some people maybe in the United States it doesn't get out that much, might not know, but yeah, there is definitely an impact from the Chinese manufacturers. Yeah.
Yeah, Chinese has a lot of advantage right now with incentives and everything that is happening in China. So they are able to export some good pricing options with really good trim levels. And again, the EV transition that right now procurement, it's changing everything, right? It's not just buying a vehicle, it's buying a home charging solution, it's buying infrastructure, it's managing charging hours, it's managing reimbursements, electricity bill reimbursements. So procurement has been evolving from just one vehicle that you will just fill it up with gasoline or diesel. And right now you need to understand what it's a kilowatt, what are the differences on the especially on each country, what kind of rates you're going to be receiving by charging it at day, by charging it at night. So procurement for the fleet industry has been evolving too much with electrification. One of the things that it's happening also, specifically in United States, is that um, Tesla and Rivian have a more retail focus management, that it's not usually what we in fleet deal with the leasing companies. So the leasing companies and Tesla and Rivian are adjusting themselves to the processes that we're used to as a lease company, leasing management company. But Rivian and Tesla are more focused on a retail process, right? So in
Hmm.
some other cases, new competitors like Rivian, it's going to be complicated to manage because at some point, let me give you an example, a windshield. We didn't have a windshield in any other supplier than the Rivian repair centers. So you had to replace a windshield that was damaged on the road with a specific Rivian repair center that is located on a specific location. So those are the changes that we are seeing in the procurement strategy. And at some point, ABB being committed to the EV100 initiative, obviously there's going to be more changes that we're going to be requiring, like evaluating what are the commuting routes that they have, if there's an infrastructure, what is the vehicle that is going to fit the customer needs. So it's a major change of what we're seeing in the procurement and management side. Many things to come, many new competitors, different technologies, even discussing the type of connector. It's different, right? The Chinese brands have a connector, a GBT connector. North America is more inclined to Tesla for the future. But again, there are many things that are happening, different tornadoes surrounding us at the same time with the different technologies that we have. Even telematics is going to be changing because right now the electric vehicles have a telematic solution from the OEM, right? It's something that is going to be changing also the industry for the future.
Yeah, my last question, I just want we don't have so much more time. Just one tip on maybe if you can give us a tip on how to optimize maintenance and repairs. And then you also mentioned telematics, and also can you use technology such as telematics
Sure,
to help with this
absolutely.
optimization?
Yeah, telematics is it's a major data provider, right? And at the end of the day, the way you can plan or improve the maintenance or reduce costs, it's with data. That's gonna give you a lot of information. That's gonna give you the visibility of tracking or do some plan or trends on what it's going to be required in the future and act previous to the corrective maintenance, right? So telematics will give us a lot of information. They will predict, and especially with at some point AI will predict what type of maintenance you will receive. And obviously, preventive maintenance will give you the ability to reduce costs in case of a corrective. Always, you're going to be, you're going to see that it's cheaper to do a preventive maintenance than a corrective maintenance, and telematics will does provide that information. But telematics does not only help you to do the maintenance. Obviously, safety, as Jaime mentioned. Um, we have a lot of information that is being tracked or traced from the telematics that will give us better um, data to manage and plan accordingly. So I would say that one of the things that we do in ABB is that we always try to communicate with the drivers depending on the mileage that they have or the kilometers that they have commuted, trying to tell them, hey, this is time for a management. We keep track of the preventive management and we enforce everybody to the preventive management. Obviously, you can't control everything and you work on the exceptions, on the correct maintenance. But at the end of the day, all the information that you can receive from telematics or even from the fuel cars, the mileage or kilometers that they type in on how many miles or kilometers the vehicle has at the time they're refueling, that's going to give you some information, some insights on what is happening within your fleet. And again, the future will be connection, right? At the end of the day, the future will bring more connectivity, more information, more data, and we're going to be able to be better on predictive instead of corrective.
Yes, I think this is, it's just starting, and with the implementation of AI within the, within the applications or telematics that we have, let's see what's going to happen in the future. So, but it'll be interesting. But we don't have much more time because I need to cut it off. But of course, thanks a lot. So Alberto, he gave us a lot of information, and so keep that all of that in mind. And also for those who are watching, remember that the goal of Fleet Mobility today is to give you insight about the, of course, the fleet and mobility industry in the Americas. And as such, please don't hesitate to leave a message below in the comments, and because we want your input too. So I guess once again, thanks, Alberto.
Thank you, Danny.
Thank you, everyone, for watching.
Bye bye.
Take care, everybody.